From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Hello.
It looks exactly
Hello.
as if we were watching with a corpse.
Oh, there you are. I was afraid for a moment that you had forgotten our appointment.
Good evening. This is Sergeant X. They say that ghosts and the like just don't exist.
You remember me, don't you? I'm your host on behalf of the makers of Carter's Pills, and you're to be my guest tonight in the mysterious circle of the inner sanctum.
Well, unless you think more of a large fat fee than you do of your life, I advise you to throw up the case at once.
Apparently, we don't look at this in the same light, Mr. Dalrymple. I expect danger, and I'm prepared to meet it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Man Alone After Dark Thank you. The Man Alone After Dark solo talk show. This is my weekly show where, rather than drilling down into one specific game or set of games, we do a bit of a buffet, a scatter shot, an amalgam of random neuron firing. Except today, it's not so random. You see, because one of the reasons I like this show is we're able to cast a wide net. Pay attention to that colloquialism because it's about to come right back around. Today, the theme is the high seas. Now, I think the high seas are very interesting from a thematic perspective. I do not have a history of enjoying seafaring adventures as far as tabletop gaming goes. I don't know why, because it's one of my favorite tropes in literature and cinema. In fact, one of my earliest warm memories, like if I was in the scene in Fight Club where he starts to go to the penguin cave, to escape the lie on his hand or whatever, I would go to this moment where my mom used to sit next to me in bed, and we had these abridged versions of like classics, and we would read them, trade off every 2 sentences or later, like every paragraph. And the one I remember the most was Robinson Crusoe. And obviously, as you get older and you learn about this broad idea of like the shipwreck metaphor, so many things that I was feeling while reading that, these are indelible parts of human consciousness. From The Tempest to Robinson Crusoe to Lord of the Flies, all the way up to the greatest modern, what I like to call it, the greatest modern disaster piece, the show Lost. All of these draw on the shipwreck metaphor, which is that like you are on your own, you are stranded, you might be doomed, you are in danger, you have to fend for yourself. Castaway is another one. But at the same time, you are radically free, right? And there's something very alluring about that. Especially the Lost setup where you have like a mini society there and you can be who you want to be and you have people to help you with things and, being on your own, the Robinson Crusoe or Tom Hanks had Wilson until he died. That would be tough. But it is said, that cinema portrays the predominant anxieties of the time. And my pet theory is that while cinema might portray the anxieties of the time, I think games, oddly, portray the aspirations. And I've noticed recently, and it could just be me, but Pirate Borg, Tephrotic Nightmares, Broken Shores, Cartograph Atlas Edition, Al-Rathak, all of these absolutely outstanding games, all of them I would say in the last 2 to 3 years. There is some, in my humblest of opinions, an upswing in this type of narrative. And I like to think about like what this means, because for me, it was, I think, like when navigation sort of like moved beyond its initial baby steps. I used to love to read firsthand accounts of like the age of discovery, 15th to 17th century. People were so jazzed about oceanic navigation. It's like the same way people talked about like the internet in the 90s and aughts, or how people talk about crypto or AI and stuff, because it was a paradigm shift. I mean, people were sharing goods, cultures, ideologies. I mean, it changed our whole economic system, mercantilism, trade, all of this stuff. And on top of that, for some people, obviously, I know that there's a complexity to this, but we're just talking about it from a sort of like Western European perspective here. There was this new world, this new place that was, from their perspective, undiscovered. And, you know, I certainly, like most people, am glad that I was born in the time period I was, although sometimes I'm like, yeah, but that's sort of a null hypothesis, you know, because in like 3148, people are going to be like, did you know that in 2025, when people needed medicine, they used to have to stab a mini knife through their arm and push it through a lumen? And it's like, no, they didn't have a subatomic medication diffuser. No, they didn't have a subatomic medication diffuser. What savages? They didn't even have a subatomic medication diffuser. Right. Yes, we still stab each other to give medicine. And so, et cetera, et cetera. But usually I'm like, thank goodness I have penicillin and indoor heating and all this stuff. But one thing I do think about is like, the earth is all discovered. You know, it's to the point where we don't really find national treasure type movies, or like Angels and Demons, or what was the other one by Dan Brown? The Indiana Jones, even. I mean, one of the reasons they passed their expiration dates is, in the case of Indiana Jones, they're still trying to make an octogenarian, an action hero. But on top of that, we just kind of don't connect with that anymore, right? Like the idea that there's any hidden places on Earth. I mean, we have satellite imaging. You know, you can look under the surface to see how far down a cavern goes. It just doesn't. It seems like we've got it all mapped. And sure, there are still surprises under layers of time that to be unlocked. And so you could say, well, like outer space. After all, before we did like radar imaging in the 50s and 60s, another thing I love to do, you could do this right now, is look up like early sketches of what people thought Venus looked like before we knew that it was 800 degrees Fahrenheit and had like atmospheric pressure so high that if you were to step on it, your body would be crushed like a can under an empty can under a foot. But before that, it had this dense atmosphere. Many of you probably know this. And people were like, wow, it's almost the same size as Earth. It's not too far from us. It has a similar rotation. I bet you that is like a tropical paradise, or it is an untouched land, untouched by modern sin. It is, the dinosaurs are still there, and all these pictures that people would make. And then it was like, okay, yeah, no dinosaurs, but it is 800. It's hell. It's literally hell. Anyways, we do have outer space, obviously. That is a frontier. The difference is, if I really wanted to, in 1605, I could just get like a skiff and push off and just hope for the best. I mean, you read stories about people all the time where it's like, how did they get here? Oh, they passed this land strait. Well, how did they get here? Oh, they built these boats. How did they get here? And it's like, honestly, we don't know. We just think like a couple of dudes who were a little bit nuts just went for it, right? I can't really break near Earth orbit unless I have $20 million or, made a pop song. And so it's something that for many people, it's well outside of reach. And yet there is something very evocative still about this idea of making it past this area of danger and finding freedom, autonomy on the other side. I also think, and now I'm kind of this is pure man alone zone here. I think that specifically speaking about a boat, there's something very appealing. We live in an age where a lot of disagreements are conceptual, theoretical, where people are claiming moral superiority over one another, not by like the acts they do, but by the positions they hold. And then often people disappoint us because they'll very adamantly say that they believe in one thing or this or that. And then when they're kind of put to the test, we see that they were just saying it, which, no surprise there. But there's something about a ship in the middle of the ocean where it's like, dude, I don't care what like you think or what you think about what I think. The only thing that matters is that we get this sail up before both of us are struck by lightning, because literally lightning is about to strike us in half, right? And so there is this like even without the shipwreck, there's this camaraderie. It's this choice between mutiny or fraternity, and then it's this new world that can be anything, and it's a chance to start over. So it's very evocative. All right, put a pin in that. So say that is emerging. I do not love the idea of like naval or ship-based games. I don't know why that is. I really do like that kind of stuff in books and movies. But I think for me, and this is quite, perhaps this reveals me to be quite a dullard or kind of like a weenie, is that I just find ship combat, even in space, like in sci-fi stuff, I find it to be so sluggish. And I think some people really like that. But for instance, I was playing Rogue Trader, the 40K CRPG, and it's like you have these ship combat, and this is like the most fun I've ever had in ship combat, and it's like a B-. But it's like my whole turn, as in my time to make my actions, I'm doing like this 180-degree turn here. I mean, it's just taking forever. Good Lord. Yeah, I am pretty shallow. The point is, I was kind of surprised when I had this uptick in interest in these types of games. But I wasn't totally sold on them yet. However, as I play through, especially my most recent playthrough of Alrathok, Broken Shores, I was like, there is some quality to these games. There's some quality to naval travel, the high seas adventure. There's something about the ocean, the waterways, that is unique as both a vehicle in the game as well as a plot vehicle. There is something unique about that. Ultraviolet Grasslands, it's like a game where you have a caravan, you're moving a caravan. And yeah, like that, all of the things that happen on a boat happen on a caravan, but there's something about it. It's like outer space, except we know there's another shore. It's like, land-based travel, but you can't just stop anywhere. You can't get out, right? It's very precarious. But there is this other quality, and I couldn't quite figure it out until I got a copy of Max Moon's latest installment in 12 years, which is 12 Years at Sea. So if you don't know, 12 Years is a game by Max Moon. This is now an imprint on the Flaming Hand Publishing. It's sort of like a merger. So there's still a Max Moon Games imprint. But 12 Years is pretty much straightforward, hex-exploring, dungeon delving, procedurally generated kind of thing. I thought it was fun. I love the design. The art in these books, the Demon Lord art is just awesome. Oh, it's so good. And, but other than that, other than the aesthetic of it, which the aesthetic takes it pretty far, I thought it was good. But of course, if you watch my channel, you know that I like emergent storytelling. I like things like Ironsworn. I like Cross Thousand Dead Worlds. I like Orbital Blues. I like Blades. I like Into the Odd. I like Dragonbane. I like these things where I'm surprised by what emerges. And 12 Years was a game like For Against Darkness. And For Against Darkness, I remember very early in my YouTube channel, I did a review of it because it was like sort of the hot game at that time. And the gripe I had was, well, I can read through this book right now from start to finish, and there's not one thing that could happen that I don't already know about, right? I know what kind of swords I can get. I know what kind of spells I can cast. I know everything that there is to know about this because I've read the book. Whereas, like here with Ironsworn, Starforged, who knows what will happen because I'm sort of alchemizing all of these inputs through my mind. But there was a comment on that video that was a really, really important comment. And I don't know who wrote it. If any of you wrote it, I would like to reconnect with you as if a man reconnecting with his birth parents. Because the comment was, it's not about 4AD itself. It's about the modularity of the game. It's almost like you are collecting an ever-expanding For Against Darkness kind of thing. And so, yeah, there's other versions, For Against the Great Old Ones. There's like adventures, Echoes of the Dead, a 3-part adventure for beginners. There's ones that are for like levels 9 to 14. Of course, there was the Treacheries of Troublesome Towns, Tome 1 and 2, which expanded outwards, maybe a little too far outwards, just in terms of generating living towns, characters, different scenarios, and stuff like that. And so, yes, it was like, given all possibilities, I suppose I could still read these books and know everything inside them. But at this point, what sort of weenie would I have to be like, I could still read them and know everything that can happen? Because there's so many combinations at this point, and there's so many different ways to mix and match not only the stuff within each book, but between each book, that it really does become something where novel things can happen, right? This one's one I got. It's only $7. Dungeon Atlas, which this one is specifically for like dungeon creation, which I really appreciate. Making these little crosshatch dungeons is like one of the best parts of this whole thing. And so 12 Years was good. And I did have the sort of wherewithal to be like, yeah, this isn't the final step of this game if they keep creating it. Demon Lore expansion came out. The art was incredible. It was a little bit like, I don't want to say more of the same. There was like a new sigil system. There were new archetypes. There weren't any new like definitive directions of the game. I still wasn't seeing the whole. When the Village expansion came out, I was like, now we're getting somewhere. Now we have carousing rules. Now we have rumors. Now we can generate different NPCs, right? But something was missing. And when I sat down and played 12 Years at Sea, it connected. It connected about all of these games. Like, what is it about the sea? What is it? I'm going to clean my play area and tell you. All right. Suppose that this right here, well, let's do this side. Suppose that this right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to zoom in a little so you can see it better. I wanted to connect these locations, right? And I have this grid. Well, hopefully most locations would be bigger than like 2 by 2, but just saying, as an example, I'd probably go up, I'd go over to get 1 to 2. If I'm really feeling zesty, I might do a diagonal one. And then we want to go up to 3. And I'm going to go up and over. All right. Because I'm making these different passageways. And we'll go down. Pretty good. And then for 3, I just need to go down and over. Right. So this is a definitive path from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And if you were to even pretend that instead of rooms of a house, or I'm sorry, rooms of a house, of a dungeon, these, are the passageways between them, or let's just say they're houses on a street. These could be like the roads between them, right? Say that they are cities on a map. This could be the paths between them, the different like highways and byways. But if you look at it again and you say, suddenly you say, well, what if these four things are not rooms, they're not houses, they're not cities, but instead they're islands? Now, how do you connect them? Like that, right? That's what water does. And yes, it's outer space does this too, but again, I don't always know in outer space if like where the shore is. And here you could leave land and go all the way around the world without finding another shore, but at least at the end of that you'd get back to your own shore. The ocean is connective tissue. It is glue that exists between all of these different places, all of these different experiences. It allows you to have total, infinite choice in tabletop role playing. These things right here, this is great. We've connected those together. There's something satisfying about finding that path. But once you go on this path, how many times have you been doing a dungeon delve and you go, you know what? I want to go back to the demon lair because I want to check that hallway between 3 and 2 again. Never. But like this way, or even right here, do we know if anything is there? Could we create anything there? It's wide open. You don't have to connect to or from it. It holds everything together. And in that way, it functions in a very useful way, both narratively and mechanically, because it allows you to float between these different ideas. It gives you more control over the game, but also it creates a never-ending story because it's the open sea, man. And so what I started to realize as I really got the like what was happening here with 12 Years at Sea, it's almost like the spark finally hit with 12 Years at Sea, because yeah, it's in terms of the 12 Years books, I think it's the best one. You still need the base game to refer to, but in terms of just the tables, the options, the new mechanics, sea combat, you're doing weather. There's a really awesome like map creating tool where if you are adjacent to land or on land, you can use, and it is highly recommended that, not the campaign journal, that you use the optional hexploring tables, which I'm pretty sure you can just download these. But yeah, you can rock back to 12 years and use the base tables for like marshes or forests or hills, right? If you're on an island, you can determine if you are still like next to the coastline or if you've emerged to open sea again, etc. But also, you can get off onto land, and suddenly you can go ahead and employ the dungeon delving rules, right? And you can start creating these sort of bespoke randomized delves. And in fact, this is free on the website, the Quick Play Guide. This is so good. It's like everything you need to boot yourself up. Even if you don't have any 12-year stuff, you download this, you could probably play a fair bit of what this game plays like. There's also portents, which give this ominous nature to it, but there's also like something that starts appearing more than just the procedural generation. Now there's something bigger happening, right? And I think that there is we're starting to see the world of 12 years fill in and start to take definitive shape. Come here, Seymour. Where are you going? Come here. You can't come on my videos. Come on. Just 1 second, please. He's a good guy. He just doesn't have boundaries. You can also get off at certain ports and go ahead and rustle up a village and carouse and start to get to know people there and start having anchor points of people that you know in different places who can give you quests, who can make sense out of your portents. And so 12 Years at Sea, and now I just have a beta copy here, right? It's not, this is why I wanted to let you know about it, as there are still 3-ish days left. They definitely have met their goal, so I'm not like sounding the alarm. They've met their goal and then some. They've done quite well. But I just think that 12 Years at Sea, it really has 12 years, the game, coming into its own. Everything else that also makes 12 years special, which is like, it's just really beautiful. I mean, even just the foil like design on the front of this, I just absolutely love it. And it's simple, especially if you're just getting started with this kind of thing and you want something that's really going to walk you through it. Get 12 years, get the PDF for it. Right now you can get a physical copy of 12 Years at Sea for $20. I believe I went in for an additional 10 spot to get the cassette because I am a tape geek. But thank you, Max Moon, for letting me have the beta edition to take a look at that. And I just have to say, not for nothing, but let me see. So there's a campaign journal specifically for 12 Years at Sea because it does add a vessel. You don't have to use it. I just added the vessel like here in one of the party member columns. But I was playing the game to sort of get a sense of it for this video, and I have the worst luck in party creation. I am the person who rolls a character in Merkborg who is dead during character creation. I'm the kind of person that like the little notes in the book that are like, oh, even if your character doesn't have any stats, you know, it's all about the story. And I'm like, why do I always have to be the one that's like, well, I guess it's all about the story? And yet, this character creation process, I was like, I should turn on the camera. That was such a good first roll because I named the characters. I was like, Tortoise, Willem, Blink, Carl. Something new in this one is that you could roll up a stowaway. And if you roll up a stowaway, they don't count in your quota of 4 starting characters. They're extra. They have no stats. If you have a mutiny later, the stowaways can reveal themselves. Then you roll up their character. So it's like really nice bonus to get a stowaway. Blink was a stowaway. So I was like, sweet. I get an additional character. So I roll up Carl, Atlantean, useless. I was like, man, this sort of archetype is useless because in 12 years, everyone has a power and a weakness. So Carl's power, the Atlantean, is sea lore, meaning he never gets lost at sea, which is like cool. He's got 5 HP compared to like 14 or 12 for the other characters. And then his weakness is true pacifist. True pacifist, which means he cannot hold a weapon and cannot fight. So he is a low HP fishman who just gets rocked in combat. I roll up the loot. Now for a weapon, I didn't roll up one for Carl because he doesn't get one. And you don't roll quality. Every single weapon that I think you get at the beginning of the game is like mundane. But for loot, you roll the quality. I get a pipe. I'm like, perfect. This fish guy has no weapon, and he sits there and smokes a pipe and just tells you how he knows exactly where he is on the map. Thank you, Carl. And I was like, gosh, this is totally useless. Side note, sea lore is not useless. That's actually really good. But at the time, that's what I was saying. And so then I roll for quality for the pipe, and I get magic. And I was like, no way. That's unbelievable. And the magic pipe, literally, if you go to the magic pipe, it's one of 4 items that are like, if you roll this up as magic, you have the pipe of billows, which can only be used by an Atlantean. And I was like, what are the odds of this? And I was like, I need to record this. I then proceeded to get another stowaway. I then proceeded to get a finfolk with a D12 damage harpoon. I've never rolled this well in my life, and still, I was like, I wish I would have recorded this. I should just turn it on for the last thing I got to roll up, which is the vessel. But you know what? Forget it. It's probably just going to... This is where it's going to fall apart. I'm going to get a raft. Nope. Named my boat the Sweet Mama. Rolled it. Got the highest starting boat of a sailboat with 80 HP. I got 2 stowaways. I got the Pipe of Billows, which, by the way, the Pipe of Billows, you could just puff away on that, and it lifts your boat up and moves you over a hex. Oh, no, that's not it, though. Pork, my finfolk, he got a treasure map, and that treasure map I rolled, and it was the Ring of the Sea Wizard's Bride. And it's a really cool system with the maps because you roll this item, and then you roll a type of island. And so here I got like a cliffside island. And when you're like discovering islands, you're going to roll to see what kind they are. And so it basically says like the next time you hit a cliffside island, it's going to be, the treasure is going to be there. And the Ring of the Sea Wizard's Bride doesn't have a mechanic, but it is like the focal point of the game. So I was like, how, because it's about this sea wizard and the loss of his love. And I'm just like, I've never done this. I didn't record it. And even now, you all think I'm lying, don't you? You don't believe me, do you? I knew it. I knew you wouldn't believe in me. Nobody believes in me. And that's what fuels me to be the greatest wide receiver. 12 Years at Sea is available for 2.5 more days. The link to back it is below. Another very affordable thing from a small publisher. Thank you, Max, for the opportunity to check that out. I think this one's going to be great, and the art and the cover looks awesome. So please, if you can, check that out. All right, moving along in our seafaring adventure. By the way, thank you, Dr. Love Wizard, for these stamps right here. I'm not going to reveal them yet because this is a friend of the channel, a member of the SEAL Team Waffle Alpha, reached out to me. It was like, hey, I made a stamp of Jorma. And I was like, come again? He said, yeah, I made a stamp of Jorma. And I was like, where is this stamp? I must have it. Then made some additional ones, but then it turns out that Dr. Love Wizard's a bit of a perfectionist. So I did get the initial stamps, and now I'm getting an updated stamp that's even more stamped perfect. So I do have 2 extra stamps, and I think we're going to have to give those away, but I will just, for now, just savor this moment. You have no idea what those stamps are. Could be anything. Ironsworn Starforged certainly left its stamp on the solo RPG world. Can I get a high five? I mean, serious.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Donna. Donna, I would say that you and I were friends, right?
Wrong.
Okay. Well, I thought we were growing closer. So, something else that I've been holding out on, simply because I drift in and out of favor with these types of games, but recently did a bit of a playthrough launch for Ironsworn and got my mind back into it. So you know that I had to pick up, after all, the latest in Starforged Ironsworn technology, which means live on camera. First ever time that I have looked at this book that has now been out for like 6 months. This is the gameplay and oracles. Now, this is interesting because usually the other ones were set up so that there's like a hardcover book and then there's a reference guide. And the reference guide is tables and stuff like that so that you can just sort of quick reference it and don't have to have this. But I was a little bit surprised, not taken aback, but surprised that like both of these were lay flat spiral bound. I don't mind that. But yeah, so it looks like Guidebook 1, gameplay, Guidebook 2, oracles. A little bit of steampunkiness to it here. Okay. Do you want to hear it? Here, I'm going to mute. It was terrible. Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to take a look through these. Let me know if you'd like to see a playthrough of this. But I know that a lot of people are fiending for that follow-up Ironsworn playthrough, so maybe you want that more. Let's just take a gander through the Oracles book here. So it's like a glossy... I'm looking right now to see, like, what is new or different. What is new or different? Well, let's flip the page. Maybe we'll find something eventually. Or right now, the cursed die. Are the Isles haunted by supernatural forces, monstrous foe, or strange technologies? You can introduce these dread aspects when you define your setting truths, or perhaps you will discover them or wake them in the course of your story. Either way, use the cursed die to reveal the uncanny, horrifying, chaotic facets of your world. Many random tables in this book are marked with a small skull icon. When you use one of those tables for inspiration, you may roll a cursed die alongside your oracle die. Like your oracle dice, the cursed die is 10-sided, but should be a special color or material to distinguish it from the oracle dice. Choose a die that evokes an eerie quality and malevolence. All right, let me find an eerie D10. 1 second. All right, I think I got it. Check it out. Like, this one doesn't look eerie on first glance. However, because I don't have any other eerie dice, I made this one eerie by writing poo on every side. It's a poo. It's a poo dice. Poo. After making your oracle roll, look at the value of your cursed poo die. Is it a 10, often signified by a 0 or an O, a double zero with a P, poo. If so, your answer is cursed. You should check the cursed version of that table for your answer. Let's see one of these. I kind of like that. Okay, let's do a cursed ship first look. So, here. All right, once again, at first glance, nothing too bad, but I did write Gary Busey on the side of it. Pooh. 63. Rotting hull and sails. Well, let me get another one then. 65. That's rotting hull and sails. 97. Shadowed by cursed weather. Ooh, look at this. This is awesome. Cursed weather, you say? 91. Wailing wind. All right. What's the size of it? 35. Medium. Whoa, 100. I rolled 100. Hot diggity dog. Ship controlling faction. Alright, I should probably, so wait, my ship is rotting hull and sails, shadowed by wailing winds. It's a medium ship, and then the ship symbol, and we can do a cursed symbol, 40, is the Grim Reaper. Alright, let me draw this up. Alright, there's my boat. I can't figure out how to make a skull without it looking like sunglasses. Why did I do that? All right, let's get back to it. A lot of interesting stuff in here. A lot of interesting stuff. So a couple of things. I have to get over the feeling I get whenever I read like naval encounters stuff. I don't know what it is, but like sighting phase, approach phase, engagement phase, boarding phase, maneuver the ship. So one thing that I didn't think about was that you really have to have a crew, right? Like it says, if you are playing solo, you are the captain, and then you rustle up a crew, which is, that's interesting because honestly, in all of my playthroughs of, well, in Starforged, I did put together a crew at one point, but usually I'm solo, and you really, I mean, you cannot run a boat with just you. You can't. But I'm like sort of amazed at the expanse of this because I didn't realize, first of all, it gives instructions on like adapting it to seafaring, skyfaring, starfaring, faring, which is, you know, those are just different types of like high seas in different genres of fiction. But there's also this like steampunk element to this. Now, what I think is good is that there is more of a definitive vision of like the world that this takes place in. There's also like some tools for creating history of a society, which I really like that. I think that that is actually the better, more enriching path. You're still going to establish your truths like you do in the other ones, but I like the idea of like creating historical events and then like thinking those forward and saying like, what would that look like today? So this is the Society Chronicles. Use this table to generate a history of notable events. 47, that shaped a society. Fought a decisive battle. 34, faced the wasting of a place or resource. 54, founded a key academy or archive. Who is the overseer of this society? 31, hereditary rulers and the society touchstone. 46, they have a lot of Wendy's. Wow, I did not expect that. Oh, it says favors audacious and distinctive styles. That's really good stuff. This is good stuff. Settlement details, settlement focus, coastline, cargo, treasure. You know, this is a lot of stuff. I mean, it's not necessarily surprising, but I'm like, oh yeah, if you're going to be doing like a high seas thing here, that definitely makes sense. I like having the curse tables with everything. And then there's also these interlude scenes. And as far as I recall, this wasn't in, I don't know about Delve, but I don't remember anything about an interlude in Starforged. Was there? I like these though. It's sort of like a low stakes scene where you can like color in your character. You could do like tests or checks, but only very minor things. Yeah, I don't think there's interludes in Starforged. I could be mistaken, but I like these as well. Let's check one out. 59. Practice a skill. What talent do you hone? What do you learn from the exercise? Shipwrecks. Exploring those is pretty cool. So like being a captain, yep. That's going to be an issue. I don't know why I said that. Like, that's going to be a big problem. That's going to be an issue for me. I got to, like, it's not an issue. I got to figure out how I want to do that. I do like, though, that there's, like, a listing of different peoples and empires here. Like, there's some, you know, it's still very much decided by the player, but, like, it also is, you know, there's something here. There's something in place before you get there, I guess is what I'm saying. And then as far as the assets, it looks like it has a really nice table. Jeez. The pages are all right once I, like, pull them apart, but the very first step here is a little tough. There is this really nice table with all of the page references, and it will have like the difference for Sundered Isles and Starforged. And I can't find it right now, but there is a layout of the asset deck as well. Both of these books, $35. These cards, $16. That's unbelievable compared to like some of the things that you'd normally pay $50 for. It's an unbelievable value. And Ironsworn was the same way as well. Puts things into perspective. I'm not planning on being surprised by anything here in the asset deck, but usually... All right, deeds. Oh, that's right. So... okay, the ships... Chase guns. Yeah, there's a lot you could do with the ships. Put in a map room. Submersible. Get yourself a submarine. The moons and tides. The features. Yeah, this is the asset guide here, which breaks it down for like if it's in Sundered Isles or Starforged or both. Assembling the asset deck. The archetypes are really funny in this game, though. There's one guy who's like... I was part of the 1776 Continental Congress, but I also shoot fire out of my hand. Where is this dude? Your character, 10. You are Ironsworn. You are Seafarer. You are Rebel. Yeah, so there's like Construct Harpooner, Swashbuckler Duelist, Blade Master Spy, Navigator Scholar, Scoundrel Pirate Captain, Firebrand Socialite. Look at that guy. It's like, oh, you're not going to sign? You're not going to sign the Constitution? Huzzah! That's what happened in the Articles of Confederation. All right, so this is now considered bonus time because I'm going to talk about the last area of seafaring that I have on my horizon. And I know that not everyone fancies this. It's a very surprising source of it. I couldn't believe it myself, but I have been increasingly fixated on Imperium Maledictum. Before you run from Warhammer 40k, I just want to say there are 2 Warhammer 40k like current in process tabletop role playing games. This is not the miniatures game. This is tabletop. One of them is Wrath and Glory. Wrath and Glory is all about throwing grenades, shooting bazookas, putting chain swords through people's heads. I thought that Wrath and Glory was going to be, as we say, my pick to click. But as I have now grown older and wiser and have taken more time to look at Imperium Maledictum, I realize that not only is this a fantastic setting to solo roleplay. It is also a great system. It's very much like Call of Cthulhu. It's like a D100 roll under. And it's very simple. And it's different. Wrath and Glory is like a set of D6s. And then I was blown away because I have thought about 40K for a long time. And other than the Space Wolves and like stories, I've never thought I would see an adventure that is a seafaring adventure. But this is His Glorious Shield. And you are literally, this is like a boat on the seas of Jotungarth, this water planet, and the boat is as like big as a city. The way that characters are set up in this, so if you don't know anything about 40K, like Space Marines, 10 feet tall, super soldiers, have all these extra organs. They weigh 600 pounds. They could lift 3 tons. They're functionally immortal. You can't play as a Space Marine in this game. You have to play at the street level thing, right? You're a zealot. You're an assassin. You are hive scum. And a lot of this game takes place in an underhive, which as Terra or Earth builds in population more and more, these hive cities are built downward. And it's sort of like this noir investigation game. And this is something, there's all these different houses that actually control power in these underhives. It's sort of like a mafia. And then there's gangs and merchant guilds, and there's profiles on all of them. And there's also cults of the different gods. And I think doing like I just know that in my mind, I can create such an awesome adventure with this. The Interlocutor. This is, I think, an infractionist psyker. Is this what that would be? The Mystic, yeah. It's like an unsanctioned psyker. Tech priest you can be. The Savant. Hail to the Omnissiah. The Warrior. All right, here's some different chips. Basic reference sheets. A lot of people were saying that it was like confusing with these success levels and stuff. It's not. It's totally not. You just have a target number, and then you roll your D100, and you say that the target that you need to beat is like over 50, and you roll a 73. You just lop off the 10s. 7 minus 5 is 2, right? If you rolled a 73, that would be 2 success levels. And it just basically means you succeeded more. And the game, I don't know, it's a system that seems like it would just really do a great job of focusing on the narrative, on the action, and also having like, I hate combat. And so I like the idea of chasing leads and being suspicious. And, maybe I work for an Inquisitor. Maybe I work for the some sort of investigation unit from the planet. Maybe I work for a gang and I'm doing like counter intelligence or whatever. But yeah, these are the first like Warhammer RPG dice I've ever seen that actually have some like flavor on them. They have the little Inquisition eye on the 10. Okay, but the innovation I have with this thing that I thought would be really interesting, this struck me out of nowhere, was I have, I collect and paint like Kill Team. All right, Kill Team is a pared down version of 40K that is essentially played with like Have you ever seen a game of 40K? It's played on these vast tables. Kill Team is played on a smaller surface. It's like you have usually like 10 operatives, and I really don't have anyone to play with. One of my friends who would play with me is not living in the States right now, and I don't know. I was never able really to learn that well, so I could go to like the local game store and get something going, but I wanted to play on my own. And a thing that I found, if Kill Team is a pared down version of 40K base game, if you ever heard of the video game Darktide, Darktide has its own miniatures game, which is a pared down version of Kill Team. And what's cool about the game Darktide, it's a video game, is that basically you're taking on these swarms of like rot infested, plague infested dudes. And there's only 4 of you. There's a veteran, a psyker, a zealot, and an ogryn. Okay. And I was like, how cool would it be? I have my ogryn here. And this will get a little better. These are not expertly painted, but so this is my ogryn. And this is my veteran. And this is my zealot, who has these awesome flame thrower. And this is my psyker. And I was like, what if I did a playthrough of Imperium Maledictum where I could even just choose one of these, maybe like the veteran, and say, I'm the veteran, but I also have these companions. And I go through Imperium Maledictum, but whenever I do combat, I switch over to Darktide and do miniature combat on like the little play surfaces they have, because these play surfaces, they're not so big. I could probably fit most of them right here, and there are solo rules for Darktide. There are solo combat rules. You could play the game on your own. They're in the book. Now, the challenge here would be, of course, figuring out how to like translate stats from one to the other, because there'll be things where like you can draw a card, there's different activations, but it's like if I got, an upgraded flamethrower here, I could just like, I guess, keep them separate. I could just like keep them as separate worlds, But it got me really interested because I definitely prefer wargaming combat over tabletop role-playing combat. And I know that for some of those are very close together, but I just think that wargaming type combat is so much more clear and to the point. Because for me, it's weird. I have a weird relationship with it. I don't feel like I'm always narrating out everything that happens. Oh, I do a backflip off this guy's head, and just let me know who won, who lost, what my injuries are. I want to get back to the good stuff, which is talking. So yeah, that's an idea that I have. I'm going to check out some other goodies that I just got today. This is a world building deck, the interactive or solo world building for any fantasy role-playing game. And of course, an extra treat with a gift card, a solo cassette dungeon. No, there's no cassette in here. It's just one of these little dungeons. I'm always in search of the perfect vacation games, which I am also doing an upcoming video on best vacation games. You can look forward to next few videos. I'm going to be doing one on an absolutely incredible expansion for Mouse Ritter. Yeah, that's it. Let me know your thoughts below. Let me know if you played Sundered Isles, if you have any thoughts about that, if you think Imperium Maledictum would be cool, or if you're pretty much just a fan of the base Ironsworn game or what have you. So thanks for coming along, and you can check out those links below, and my head hurts. I'll update it.